Hey guys, Mark here. I hope you're all doing well. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a paracord riding crop. Now this tutorial was one that I was putting off for quite a while since it is quite a handful. It required me to make a lot of shots, a lot of different attempts at showing you how to tie different techniques, and I really put a lot of effort into it. I really hope that you will enjoy it and learn a lot of useful tricks. Now, I must say that everything that I'm showing you in this tutorial is not set in stone. You can choose to use another technique or different approach to any aspect of making such a project. Please do comment on your alternatives to the techniques that I'm using. We can all learn together and improve how we make our items. With that said, let's get started. Here you can see the finished item. We have the handle, as well as two knots at the top and bottom. We have a wrist loop, the neck of our riding crop, as well as the top, again covered with a decorative knot. So this is the project that we're going to do. Let's get started. The very first supply that we're going to need for our project is a core. The core is used in order to stiffen up our riding crop. In my case, the core is going to be made out of brass, but fiberglass, for example, is also quite popular. In any case, you should be able to find a core that you can use in a well-supplied hardware store. Now, as far as the length of the core goes, I would recommend 2 to 2.5 feet in length. So the core should be 2 to 2.5 feet long. Usually, I will try to balance it out where the handle is to see how it performs. Now, after cutting out the proper length for our core, we're going to move on to covering it with the first plate. We're going to continue by covering the core using a 4-stranded round plate. For this purpose, you're going to need 2 strands of paracord, which I have gutted by removing the inner strands. This will make the paracord lay flatter. You should have at least 3.5 times the length of your core in each of the strands. So each strand is 3.5 times the length of your core. You can take a bit more just to be safe. With that said, let's move on and use these 2 pieces of paracord to plait over the core. I have proceeded by immobilizing my core. I'm going to take my 2 strands of paracord. I'm going to place one like this, so over the top. Then the other one over the top as well. So basically they cross and create 4 strands that we can braid with. Now I'm going to take my top right cord. I'm going to travel behind and through the 2 cords on the left side. Then back to the bottom on the right. Then I'm going to take this top left cord. I'm going to travel behind and through the 2 cords on the right side. Then back to the bottom on the left. Then the top right again, behind through the 2 cords on the left. And back on the bottom on the right. Then the top left again, behind, through the 2 cords on the right side, then back to the bottom on the left. And that's pretty much all we do. We alternate the top, right and left cord, going behind and through the 2 cords on the other side. Then back to the bottom from the side where we came from. So again, top right, through the 2 cords on the left, and back on the bottom on the right. Then the top left cord again, through the 2 cords on the right, then back to the bottom on the left. After plaiting a short length, I'm going to continue by regripping my core, then doing the next length. It is quite important that you plait firmly so that you get a nice and consistent plait. If you ever lose your place, just look at which is the last of the cords and use that one in order to continue your sequence. So in this case, the last one in the sequence is this one, so I'm going to use this one. Then the last one is this one, so the top left one, so I use this one. Plait the entire length of your core and then we're going to continue. After plaiting to the end of your core, finish it up by either taping up the ends or use a common whipping in order to finish your plaiting. To do a common whipping, I'm going to use a piece of thread. I'm going to fold it to get a small bite. I'm going to place this bite over my plaiting like this. Then with the long end of my thread, I'm going to start wrapping around over my plaiting, traveling towards the left side. You will want to do your common whipping fairly tightly. Keep wrapping around until you get to the left side, or run out of thread, of course. After you have a short length remaining in your thread, feed it through the loop on the left side, like this. Then pull on the right piece of thread in order to pull this left end under the whipping to about the center. After you do that, pull on both ends in order to tighten up your whipping. After doing your whipping or taping up the ends, our first layer is pretty much complete. We're now going to add a second layer for the handle, so this time we're going to do only a part of the core. We're going to use 8 strands this time, and we're going to get 8 strands by using 4 pieces of paracord. Each of the pieces should be at least 4 times the length of your handle. To continue, I'm going to take 2 pieces of paracord. Again, I have removed the inner strands and I'm going to place them over the core where I want to start my handle. So something like this. Then I'm going to take the third strand and I'm going to go over under towards the bottom left. Then I'm going to take the last of the cords and I'm going to travel under over towards the bottom left. So as you can see, I have a nice little weave here at the top. Now I would highly advise that you pin these 4 cords onto the core in order to make your job a bit easier. We're going to continue by taking the top right cord and we're going to travel around, then weave through the 4 cords on the left. So we're going to start under, over, under, over, then back to the bottom on the right. Then we're going to take the top left cord, we're going to travel to the right side, then travel under, over, under, and over, then back to the bottom on the left. Then the top right cord again, around to the left side, then under, over, under, and over, then back to the bottom on the right. Then the top left cord again, around towards the right side, then under, over, over, and back to the bottom on the left. At this point, you may want to tighten up all of the cords just to get everything nice and secure. We're going to continue the same way, so the sequence is going to be top right cord, goes around, then weaves through the 4 cords on the left, under, over, then back to the bottom on the right. Then the top left cord goes around, then under, over, and back to the bottom on the left. Tighten up a bit, then continue the same way. Top right, goes around, then under, over, then back to the bottom on the right. Then the top left again, around, then under, over, and back to the bottom on the left. Remember to regularly tighten and continue this until you reach the bottom, where we're going to do another whipping. After plating the handle, you will want to finish the ends. You can again use either duct tape or a common whipping. I'm going to do a whipping again. So I take a piece of thread, I make a small bite, and place it over the end of my handle. Then with the long end, I'm going to start a series of wraparounds towards the left side. After you do a series of wraparounds, we finish by placing our end through the loop on the left side. Then all we do is we pull on the end on the right side in order to pull the left end in. We want to pull it in to the middle point of our whipping. Like this. Then we start pulling on both of the ends in order to tighten up our whipping. After doing this, I'm going to trim the ends. After finishing my whipping as well as trimming and melting the ends, I'm going to continue by basically braiding this loop. So I'm going to use a simple 3-stranded braid. So to start our braid, we're going to take the left strand and place it over the top in between the other two. Then we're going to take the right strand and again we're going to place it over the top in between the other two. Then again the left strand travels in between the other two and the right strand travels in between the other two. Then the left strand again travels in between the other two and the right strand travels in between the other two. And the left strand and the right strand, and the left strand, and the right strand, and the left strand, and the right strand. And that's all we're doing until we get a length for our loop that we would like. After braiding the wrist loop, we're going to attach it onto the handle. Now again, you can use either duct tape, but in my case I'm going to use a common whipping. So again, I'm going to take a piece of thread. I'm going to fold it to create a bite. I'm going to place it over my handle. And then I'm going to start wrapping around. After wrapping a sufficient length, take the strand that you used to wrap with and feed it through the loop on the left. Then use the right end in order to pull in the left end to about the center of the whipping. Then make sure to pull on both of your ends tightly in order to tighten up your whipping. Since the wrist loop is going to get under a lot of stress, it is very important that you do secure it onto the handle quite firmly. After forming the wrist loop, you will want to cover the two whippings using a Turk's head knot. Now, as an additional step, I'm going to cover the two whippings with a piece of leather, like this, just to get a nicer shape for my Turk's head knots. This is completely optional, but I do recommend it. If you choose to use a piece of leather, then it should be a bit under an inch in width. When you wrap it around your whipping, it should barely come together at the ends. This is because when we stitch it up, it's going to pull together. So this is optional, but highly recommended. To stitch up our leather collars, we're going to need to make some holes. Now you can drill in the holes, you can use a nail, or more traditionally, a lacing chisel or a pricking iron is used. A leather awl will also do the job. We make 2 of these, then continue. To stitch everything up, I'm going to use 2 leather colors. I'm going to use 2 needles in order to attach them, one to each side of my thread, as well as 2 pieces of thread. With that, we can begin stitching. First, we thread our needles. And then I simply pierce the end with my needle in order to secure it. Like this. Then the other side, exactly the same way. So I have 2 needles and a thread. We're going to continue by taking the leather piece and wrap it around our whipping. Then we're going to take one of the needles and we're going to travel through the second hole from the bottom. So through the second hole here on the right, as well as through the second hole here on the left side as well. Pull the needle through and make sure that both of your ends are of equal length. So like this. We're now going to take the left end and travel through the last of the holes on the left. Then through the last of the holes on the right. Like this. Then take the right end and travel through the last of the holes on the right, then through the last of the holes on the left. Like this. Then pull on both of the ends in order to equally tighten up. Like this. Then we're going to take the left end and travel through the second hole from the bottom again. So we're basically doing a back stitch. So through the second hole from the bottom on the left, then through the second hole from the bottom on the right, like this. Then take the right needle and travel through the second hole on the right. So the second hole from the bottom on the right. Then through the second hole from the bottom on the left. And with that we made a back stitch. Now firmly tighten up both ends. Like this, and you have a very secure way of starting your stitching. We're going to continue with the saddle stitch, so it is very simple. We take the left end, we go through the next hole. So in my case it is the third one from the bottom. So the third one on the left, third one on the right, like this. Then take the right needle and go through the same 2 holes, this time from the right side. And again tighten up. like this. And again, the left needle through the next 2 holes. The right needle through the next 2 holes. Like this. And tighten up. Now once you go through the last 2 of the holes, so I had 4, so I'm done, I'm going to travel back down through one of the holes. Here, so I'm again going to start with the left needle, traveling through 1 hole down, through the 2 holes. Then take the right needle and travel through the same 2 holes, basically just making a back stitch. And tighten up. Now at this point, you should pretty much have a secure stitching. But just to make sure that everything is okay, I'm going to add 1 more stitch. So 1 more back stitch. So after you stitch up the collar, you snip the threads and you melt them. With that, you have a stitched collar, which we're going to repeat here at the top of the handle as well. After attaching the collars at the top and bottom, we're going to continue by covering them using a Turk's head knot. Now you have a ton of options as far as Turk's head knots go. You could use a gaucho knot, a herringbone knot, or anything like it. Since the plaiting that we did is basically coded as a round braid, I'm going to use 2 casa knots. The 2 knots are going to be 9-part 8-bite Turk's heads. So let's move on to tying a couple of those. To tie the covering knot, I'm going to use a dowel rod about 1 inch in diameter. You can also use a pill bottle or anything like it. I have attached a rubber band onto it in order to hold the standing end of my paracord. As far as paracord goes, I'm going to use about 4 feet, which is enough for a dowel rod about 1 inch in diameter. Now the cord is gutted, and I have attached a lacing needle onto it. The lacing needle is completely optional, but quite handy. So we're going to start by taking the other end of our paracord. We're going to place it under the rubber band, like this. Then we're going to make a wraparound around the mandrel, and we're going to come over the standing end. Then wrap around again, coming here, over towards the right side. Then we're going to take our lacing needle, and we're going to go the opposite of this cord, so under, over. Come around again. And we're going to double up the standing end by following it towards the right side. So under, over. Like this. Then we're again going to travel the opposite of this cord, so over, under, over. Come around, and we're going to travel in between the standing end and the cord that's doubling it up. We're going to do the opposite in order to split them. So we're going to start over, then under, then over. Then we have another set of parallel cords that we need to split. So this one, and we're going to start under, then over, under, and finally over. We're now going to expand the knot again by again doubling up the standing end. So we travel under, then over, under, and finally over. Then we're going to travel the opposite of this cord, so we're going to start over, then under, over, under, and finally over. And again, we have two parallel cords that we need to split. We're going to travel between them and do the opposite of what they're doing. So we're going to start over, then under, over, under, and finally over on the right. And we have another set of parallel cords to split. We're going to travel between them and do the opposite. So we start under, then over, under, over, under, and finally over on the left. Then what we're going to do is again double up the standing end. So we go under, over, under, over, under, and over on the right. Then we're going to travel the opposite of this cord, so we're going to start over, under, over, under, over, under, and finally over on the left. And again, we're going to split the two parallel cords. We're going to travel between them and do the opposite. So we start over, under, over, under, over, under, and finally over. And we're going to split the next set of parallel cords, traveling between them and doing the opposite. So we start under, then over and under, over, under, over, under, and finally over on the left. With this, our Turk's head knot is tied, and what we do to finish up is we basically travel here, right next to the standing end, then go under the entire knot, and exit here on the other side. With this, we have finished the knot, and we have both ends on the sides, so it will be easy to cut them. Now at this point, we're going to take our riding crop and I'm going to basically just remove my knot off of the mandrel, remove the lacing needle, then place my knot onto the leather collar and start tightening it up. Now you start tightening by basically pulling your standing end in about as much as you can without loosening it up. So this should be fine. Then you basically go through the entire knot, pulling out the slack until you come out this working end. Now you will need to do this several times usually, so do be quite aware of that. Now before you do the final tightening, you can also insert something like a concho or a coin here at the very bottom in order to get a nice look. After covering the two leather collars with the two covering knots, you're going to be quite far in the tutorial. Now to get a nice look for these decorative knots, you will want to roll them. So you take a plank, place your knot onto it, then with another piece of a plank, roll the knot. Do this for a while and you're going to get a nice flat look for your knots. Now you can also do this on the plating on the entire crop. And you can see that it gets a much nicer look to it. We're now going to move on and do the final part, which is going to be the top. Now to design the top, I'm going to use a piece of leather. I'm going to trace a pattern for the top here and then cut it out. Since I have a pricking iron, I'm just going to trace around it. I'm now going to cut out this part, then fold it and trace it again. Let me show you. So after cutting the desired shape out, I'm going to fold it over like this, and then trace it again to get another section that we're going to be able to fold together. So something like this. Now again cut out. After cutting out, I'm going to dye this leather part to match it to the rest of my riding crop. When you start dyeing your leather, make sure to do it in a well-ventilated spot. Ideally, you will want to do it outside because leather dyes are a bit toxic. Try to wear gloves in order to protect your hands, since the leather dye will also dye your skin. So to do it, simply pour your dye into a tub. Dip your leather in. Maybe do it twice. And the leather is done. Now all you do is set it aside and let it dry. After letting the leather dry, what we're going to do is buff it. Buffing is basically the process of removing any extra pigment. If you don't do this, the pigment can then rub onto your clothes or any other items. So I definitely recommend buffing your leather by basically just taking some paper or a piece of cloth and then simply going over it. After buffing your piece of leather, it's going to get a bit shinier. We're going to continue by processing the edges. This is completely optional and it does give you a bit of a nicer edge. To do it, you take a bit of water and you rub the edges with it. Then you take a piece of wood. I'm going to use an edge burnisher, and you basically just rub up and down the edge, and this will make it shinier as well as straighter. So no more fuzzy bits at the sides. After burnishing the edges, you should get a nice, smooth and shiny edge. Finally, to protect the leather, I'm going to apply something to protect it. There are various top finishes that you can use. One that I really like is leather sheen. Now, you can use anything else as long as it works for you. So after making the top part, we're going to attach it onto our riding crop, again using a whipping. Finally, we're going to cover it using a covering knot, and that will finish this tutorial. Now, you can also stitch this top part on, which is completely valid. But in my case, I'm going to use this method. You could even combine the two, whatever you prefer. So let's do it. So I'm going to take the top part, place my riding crop in between it, like this, then take a piece of thread, fold it into a bite, place this bite over like this, and then I'm going to start wrapping around with my long end. You will want to wrap as tightly as you can in order to secure this top part. So after reaching the bite on the left or running out of thread, we place our thread through this small loop on the left, like this. Then pull in this left end with our right end. And we want to get this left end to about the center of our whipping. So like this, then pull on both ends in order to secure it. After finishing my whipping, I'm going to cover it with a decorative Turk's head knot. I'm going to use a 7-part 4-bite Turk's head. I'm going to use the same mandrel I used before, so it is about 1 inch in diameter. I have a rubber band placed onto it to hold the standing end of my paracord. For this knot, you're going to need about 2.5 feet of paracord. I have gutted it to make it lay flatter. I attached a lacing needle onto one of the ends, and with that we can begin. I'm going to tie the knot by placing my standing end under the rubber band. I'm going to wrap around the mandrel, coming over the standing end, coming around again, traveling over here towards the right side. Then I'm going to take my working end and I'm going to travel under, over, towards the left side. Like this. Then I'm going to travel around, reaching my standing end and passing under it. Then I'm going to follow the standing end on its left side, traveling under, over, under. Then I'm going to follow this cord here, traveling under, over 2, under 1. I come to my standing end and this time I'm going to pass over it. So over the standing end, then I'm going to split the two parallel cords. So I'm going to travel under 1, then over 2, traveling in between the two parallel cords. So over 2, under 1 and over 1. And finally, I'm going to split the next pair of parallel cords, starting with an under 1, over 1, under 1, over, under, and finally over. With this, I have tied a knot, and I simply place my working end next to the standing end, then travel under the knot towards the right side, like this. So again I have two ends on the sides which I can easily cut. I then remove the knot from the mandrel and place it over my whipping. Like this, where I'm going to tighten it up, again starting with the standing end, pulling it in just so it's barely noticeable, and running the slack through the entire knot until I come out through the working end. After tightening the final knot, all there's left to do is to roll everything to get a nice consistent look, and we are done. Guys, I would like to sincerely thank you for joining me in this tutorial. It wasn't easy to put together and I hope that it will help you out. With that said, thank you for joining me and see you next time.